Good morning or good afternoon whenever you are watching this. It is currently 5:30 in the morning, up, moving, getting some steps done. My body seems to be waking me up now at about 4:30 every single morning, but I'm still getting in good quality sleep because I'm going to bed about 8:30. And I kind of expected this, people who have done preps in the past and have told me what it's like have told me that it gets to that stage where your body just wakes you up super early and you can't really control it, so I'm embracing it. I've had my fat loss concoction of theanine, caffeine, and I'm getting a large chunk of steps done early doors, fasted state. Feeling good, I'm feeling good. Currently 7.5 weeks out and we're in a very good spot. I'm now, I would say, around that 10% body fat. So in today's video, we're going to talk about how I've managed to get to this stage of prep and I'm still not fucking hungry, which is pretty wild to think. So my calories are at 2,200 on a training day, 2,100 on a non-training day. And for me, peak off season, my calories got up to just over 4,000, so about half of that. And I'm always been a big eater. I never struggled to get food in or anything, so that amount of calories was quite easy for me to get in. I'm looking forward to each meal, but yeah, just not hungry really at all. I mean, don't get me wrong, I look forward to my next meal, but I'm not ravenous. And being this lean and being in that position, I'm taking it. So as mentioned, we're going to talk about how I've managed to do that. So the first point we're going to talk about is my food choices. Now, with my diet, I'm following a meal plan currently, and I'm trying to get in a lot of fiber mainly. So through fruits, vegetables, fibrous carbohydrates like potatoes, that sort of thing. And they are the ones that are going to fill you up the most. So if you're dieting and you wanted to curb those hunger signalings, try to get in a lot of veg, a lot of fruit, but don't fall into the trap of as you increase your calorie deficit, you're pulling away food, you're adding more veg, because ultimately veg still contains calories, fruit still contains calories. So, although you might be reducing your deficit, you might be adding in more calories through the veg. So just bear that in mind. I don't actually track my veg, but I keep it consistent every single day. So I'll have veg with my first meal and then veg with 2 other meals in the day. And then, like I said, I'll have potatoes, I'll have fruits that are sprinkled in throughout the day as well. So yeah, that is the first point, but I'm just gonna do like a normal day in the life as well, and then add in some little points of value throughout. So stay tuned, enjoy the video. If you're watching the prep series and you're enjoying it, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. See you in a bit. All right, time is 6:33, just got back after doing a large chunk of steps. So I've already done, at this point in the day, 8,392. Easy, light work. So I got back and now I'm just doing some meal prep. So what I tend to do is do all my meal prep at the start of the day, just because it saves me a lot of time rather than having to cook each meal on the spot, And I could probably save even more time if I was to batch cook a load of meals, but I prefer having them a little bit fresher, First meal I'm making is cream of rice, of course, the pre-workout meal. I'll literally have this meal and then train, and then have all my other meals later in the day. But yeah, that leads me on to my second point. So I think the number of meals I have really helps with curbing that hunger psychologically. At the end of the day, all that matters is calories in versus calories out, but how you kind of distribute those calories can help curb those hunger signalings. So imagine your calories were at 2,000 and you had 2 meals, yeah? You had 1,000 calories in both. Whereas if you had 5 meals and you evenly spread out those meals, I guarantee you're gonna be a lot less hungry. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to have 5 fucking meals. It just works well for me, and it's I can incorporate that into my lifestyle. But from a psychological standpoint, I know that my meals are spaced out every 2.5 to 3 hours. So when I start getting hungry again, it's usually time to eat. And yeah, that works really well for me. So that's the next point as to why I've managed to not really get hungry whilst being 10% body fat. So onto meal prep. We'll do my veg, chicken, beef, do some work, eat that, head over to the gym for an upper day. On to the next point. Fizzy drinks. can't beat a can of Monster first thing in the morning, can you? Absolutely divine. But fizzy drinks, carbonated drinks, definitely help curb those hunger signalings for sure. Now, I'm not saying you should have like 10 fucking fizzy drinks a day, but I think the odd one here and there is absolutely fine. The sugar-free ones, of course. So what I tend to do is I'll have a Monster first thing in the morning whilst I'm doing my check-ins, and then later in the day sometimes I'll have a caffeine-free Diet Coke as well with a final meal. And I found that those really help with just making me feel fuller and curbing those hunger signalings, like I said. So that is the next point.
So just arrived at the gym in for a upper session. I say upper session, but if you've watched the channel and you've seen this session, there's literally one back movement because my focus is delts, chest, arms. So don't need as much back volume. It's quite a strong body part for me. So we'll kind of briefly run through the session. Any sort of main talking points I want to mention, then I will. And I guess before I get stuck into it, we'll talk about the next point as to why I'm not feeling as hungry during this diet, and that is meal timings. So as I've got deeper and deeper into this diet, what I've been doing is pushing back my first meal, because I tend to not be that hungry first thing in the morning. And this tends to be the case for a lot of people as well. So if your schedule allows for it and you're not maybe like training first thing in the morning, I would highly advise trying to push back that first meal. And you might have heard of the phrase intermittent fasting before. It's where you do push back that first meal because you're not as hungry first thing in the morning, okay? So that's what I do, and yeah, it works really well for me. I'll tend to have my first meal around like 9 AM, and then I can backload a lot of my food later in the day when I'm more hungry. And because I have 5 meals, you know, I can space them out like 2 hours apart. So that's my next tip. Into upper session, let's get it. Well, that was a good start to the session. Put the wrong fucking weight on the stack. Oh well, I did 10 kilos lighter by accident from last week. And I was doing it, I was like, this feels fucking light. I was like, I'm gonna beat my numbers here for sure. Ended up getting like 3 reps up, of course, because it was 10 kilos lighter. But anyway, first movement, side lateral raise. Big priority for me. Said it before, say it again. You wanna bring up a muscle group, put it at the start of sessions. Hit it as frequently as you can recover from. Progressively overload that muscle just like any other. Just because it's a smaller muscle group doesn't mean you want to treat it differently to any other muscle group. Add load, add reps over time, push your body weight up, and they're gonna fucking grow. Side delts are that one muscle where, number one, if you want a bigger appearance, that X frame, they're the muscles you want to grow, because you know it makes you have broader shoulders. And number two, you can absolutely hammer them with volume because they recover so well. Because they're a smaller muscle group, you know, you could train them like 7 days a week, I'm sure, and they'd be absolutely fine. Obviously, you're probably not going to do that, but what I'm trying to say is you can train them quite frequently across the week and they'll recover absolutely fine. Something that is very, very valuable. Oh, look at the delt pump, by the way. Jeez. When you are dieting, using this is absolutely invaluable. It's going to give you the tools to know whether you're regressing in the gym, and as a result of that, you can manipulate variables like training volume. You know, it could be a sign of fatigue. You might need a bit of a refeed. You might need a bit of a deload. So not only using this, but using it accurately. When you watch my sets, you'll see that my form is very precise. I'm not altering my form in order to get more reps. So with the side lateral raise machine, you see a lot of people jolt it up from the top. They'll lean their body back and they'll move it through using momentum. Obviously you don't want to do that. You want to keep your form nice and consistent throughout. And just because you're feeling a bit lower in energy and you're trying to do everything in your power to progress this, don't allow your form to sacrifice just to progress numbers, because that is not a true form of progression. So yeah, that's a bit of advice when it comes to tracking numbers during a diet phase, and even a gaining phase for that matter. Next up, the Nautilus Nitro shoulder press. You might have seen that I actually did this in my last YouTube video, but it was on a push day. Now I run this machine twice, one with a neutral grip, one with a pronated grip, just because it's such a fucking good machine. And with the neutral grip, I find that number one, get a little bit more elbow flexion, potentially a bit more tricep. And I feel it a little bit more in my upper chest as well, just because my elbow path lines up a little bit more favorably with the upper chest. And also I'm probably gonna get a lot of front delt out of it as well. So it's kind of like killing 3 birds with 1 stone almost. So yeah, last week I got 100 for 8. This week I'm trying to get 102 for 8 as well. And that's what it's about, like I said, micro progressions, especially during a diet. In a gaining phase, you can get away with bigger jumps like 2.5, 5, even sometimes 10 kilo jumps on big movements like stiff legs, other compounds. But during a diet, the goal should be really to retain, but I'm still trying to take small progressions, but not at the cost of form. Remember that. Eight fucking reps. Big man, how are we doing? You good?
Yeah, all good, thank you.
Good man. No doubt, 8 reps. Could have potentially gone for 1 more there, but again, during this diet phase, that would have been a bit of a scrappy rep. Definitely going to eat into recovery big time. So you've got to weigh up the pros and cons of taking that extra rep, you know. At this stage, at 7.5 weeks out, I'm likely not going to be building that much muscle. So there's no point taking those scrappy reps when all it's going to do is just dig you deeper into that fatigue state. So we're being sensible with training. All right, next movement up, we've got the flat plate loaded conversion chest press. This is probably my favorite chest press right now. And I wanted to talk about something that's going around at the moment. It's a bit of a craze, it seems. It's that super stretch position, that length and range where you get so much benefit from a muscle building standpoint. And to a certain extent, that's true. Maybe not with all muscle groups, but I feel like it may be further down the line, people are going to run into a lot of joint issues because they're exceeding what's called their active range of motion. Now, if I was to do this movement without any weight in my hands, you can see that my hands stop about there, yeah? The only way they can get back further than that is if I've got a load in my hands that's forcing me into that position, or I force myself back, you know? So ideally, you want to really be staying within that range. Long term, that's going to be safest for your joints, and ultimately in that position, your muscles are probably in their most stretched position. Now, I kind of fall into the camp of exceeding your active range slightly. I think a lot of people nowadays are coming into that stretch position and way out exceeding their active range of motion, which can long term potentially lead to some issues. So just be wary of when you're stretching a muscle, like how stretched you're getting it, and it's not compromising your joint health. Yeah, boy. Rep up. Nice. All right, next up, usually I'll do a cuffed clavicular fly on the cable, but somebody was on it and fancy giving this a go, so we're going to change it up a bit today. Luckily at the coach, if something's not free, they've probably got something else, whether that's a machine, a cable, or a fucking free weight that's going to do the same thing. So grateful to be able to train here. Now you can see, because of the angle of the bench, I'm obviously going to be getting like quite a bit of upper chest here, and that's the goal. So again, I'm thinking about driving my elbows together at the top there. I've tried this in the past and I can't quite get on with it. Play around with the seat position a little bit. Let's give it a whirl, eh? It's a bit of an awkward one to get into because the fucking pads are so low down. Let's try it one by one. That's better. Ooh.
felt pretty good, to be fair. I feel like that height of the seat was perfect, and that just goes to show the value of practicing your warm-up sets properly, treating them like a working set, obviously without the same level of load or effort level, but if you can nail your setup, tempo, execution in the warm-ups, your chances of having a good top working set or sets are going to be much higher, and then you don't feel like, well, I fucked that set, I've got to wait an entire week to now do that again. Treat your warm-ups like your working sets. All right, next up, pullover machine. I've said this in the past. I think if you're trying to bring up your lats, pullover variation of some sort should be in your plan. So again, we're lucky at the coach, we've got 2 machines here, but you can also use a rope, a dumbbell, both work really well. Really going to train the lats in that stretch position, and the back is one of those muscles that really benefits from being trained heavy in that stretch position, and that's why you see a lot of people with big backs doing heavy bent over rows, heavy dumbbell rows, that sort of thing, where they're loading their back in that stretch position, and they're not so focused about getting a super squeeze or a crazy good contraction. It's more a case of loading heavy weight in that stretch position. So that's the goal with this one. 2-second pause in the stretch, coming down to about here and then coming back up. For me, from here to here, it's likely just wasted energy. So sort of like a semi-length and partial, you could call it. But yeah, goal is to progress this once again, and I'm gonna take it. Looks like I'm in a fucking nightclub, doesn't it? Seatbelt, absolutely crucial for this. The weight is trying to pull me up, so I want something pulling me down. 190 for 9 last time, I think. So of course, 190 is going for 10 today. Oh yes. 10 fucking reps, come on. Next up, this is quite tight. The absolute GOAT of tricep machines, the Nautilus Nitro Plus. I had to read the title there. But yeah, this, after every fucking session I have, this gives me tricep bombs every time. So good. It's super heavy in that stretch position and drops off big time in the short, which is probably the only downside to it, because there's like literally no tension at the bottom. So similar to the last movement, I'm not coming all the way down, because like from here to here, there's no tension really. So I'm coming to about there and then coming back up, mainly getting the benefit from this tricep movement in the stretch position. But then when I train my triceps at other points in the week, I'll train them more in that shortened position as well. So I'm kind of like ticking the boxes of training the triceps in different ranges. Some in the stretch, some in the mid, some in the short, and then varying your shoulder positions as well. So you're training separate parts of the tricep, you know? So that's quite important to note. And yeah, this is the final movement. I lied. Abs after this, and then we're done. Fuck. Let's do a quick mid-session pump check. How's the back looking? Fuck me, it's hot, isn't it? Jesus. UK at the moment, the temperature in this room is currently 32 degrees. As it nicely says on my fan there that's blowing on me currently. Oh, out of focus. Anyway, very good session earlier. Very good session. Progressing numbers across the board. Obviously you would have taken away, hopefully, some value from that session, but you know, it's incredible that I'm 7.5 weeks out and I'm still progressing numbers, or at least maintaining numbers, but 75% of the time I'm progressing, and with precise, consistent form. And you know, if that's the case, that is a clear sign that muscle is adapting to the stimulus that you're providing, which means you're almost building muscle, you know. Now, the amount of muscle I'm going to be building with my body fat percentage being this low is not going to be a great amount, but the fact that my logbook is telling me that I'm still progressing is a sign that I'm potentially recomping, which means I'm building muscle and burning fat at the same time. And you know, that's why it's important not to look into scale weight too much and get so focused with it, especially if your training's at a high level, because it is possible to build muscle and burn fat at the same time. Now, for the large majority of people that I work with, we tend to focus on one or the other, but you know, there are some cases when you can do both. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that training clip there, clips, whatever. So let's wrap up the video by talking about the final few points as to why I've managed to not feel hungry during this diet, basically. So the next point I've written down here is low food focus. Now, this is something I ran into with my photo shoot prep last year. I was watching a lot of food porn, quote unquote food porn, when social media was showing me the same content and it was all food related. I would watch it, it would show me more, cravings would go up, I'd get creative with my food and start macro tracking, and that led to me having high food focus, like I said. And afterwards I was then like saving food up, I went into a bit of a binging spiral, and I'm actually happy that I went through that, because I'm confident that it's not going to be as bad or any binging at all this time around after prep, although I'll be a lot leaner. So low food focus is absolutely key. And another point that ties into that actually is picking meals that aren't too palatable. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you have a lot of sweet meals in your day, that can lead you to wanting more sweet things. So for instance, my first meal, it used to be oats, whey, cherries, and then some almond butter in there, I believe. I fucking love that meal, but I actually swapped it out for eggs, egg whites, and a bagel and some veg, because I'm probably getting more nutritional value from that type of meal. Also, it's not as palatable. So ultimately the goal of that is to try and keep my food focus lower, and that is the reason why I changed that meal around. So another example there. The next point I've got written down is keeping busy throughout the day. So I understand that if you're working an office job and you're hating that office job, for instance, you're thinking about food all the time. You know, I've been there, it's horrible. But if you can keep yourself busy, actually do some work at work would be helpful. It's obviously gonna help take your mind off other things. And if you're in a position where, you know, you start to get those hunger signalings, just do something else. Go out for a walk if you can, drink some water. Usually those hunger signalings come, if you wait about half an hour, they will fucking go away. So if you can survive that short period, that short torture period of 30 minutes, it will go away. So just suck it up. The next point, taking our time, not being too aggressive with the fat loss. So we actually did a pre-prep diet, if you remember, at the start of the year to pull off a load of body fat, and then we allowed some time to build calories up before starting prep, which is a 20-week diet, by the way. So we've given ourselves loads of fucking time to get in shape, which means we don't have to be super aggressive with the fat loss. So if you're in a position where you want to burn some fat, then take your time with it. You know, unless you've got like a bit of a deadline, like a holiday or a photo shoot, you can have the luxury of just taking your time. If you want to be a bit more aggressive because you've got a deadline or you're just impatient, then realize that those diet symptoms are going to be further enhanced, as in you're going to get cravings, you're going to have lower energy, your training performance might be affected to a greater extent as well. So, you know, it's about weighing it up and going with the best option for you at the end of the day. The next point is fatigue management. Now, this ties into training fatigue, stress, and sleep. So firstly, let's start with sleep. My sleep routine is very good. I go to bed and wake up the same times every day. When you're in a position where you're not getting as much sleep, your hunger hormones are actually elevated. So sleep is absolutely king, as I've banged on about so many times on this channel. Trying to keep fatigue from training low as well, so I'm not digging myself into a hole where we have to then run high days, deloads, etc. And that's what I was talking about earlier, being smart with training, not taking sets past the point of failure, leaving like maybe a rep in the tank, or not going for those 50-50 reps when they're just not really needed at this stage. And of course, trying to keep stress to a minimum. Now, this is obviously easier said than done. Some people have stressful lives, stressful jobs, a fucking girlfriend that's nagging them, or a baby that's crying 24/7. It's difficult, I get it. Life throws curveballs at us, but trying your best to mitigate stress as best as possible will be a game changer for you. Something I actually did towards the back end of last year was therapy. That helped me a great deal. Just understand the way my brain works a little bit better. I don't do it anymore because I got what I needed out of it, but that helps me learn how to manage my stress better. I've tried meditation in the past, I've tried journaling. I haven't really stuck with them because I didn't really notice the benefits, but I feel like it's one of those things you've got to stick to long term. But you've got to find what works for you, you know, if it's reading, if it's going on holidays, if it's relaxing with your missus, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whoever it is, do that. Spend some time to allow yourself to unwind, de-stress, and try not to let small things stress you out. Like if someone cuts you off at the roundabout, don't lose your shit, relax. If it's out of your control, there's no point getting stressed about it, because all that's doing is putting you in that fight or flight response where adrenaline gets raised, you get into that stress state, and long term the body doesn't like constantly flicking in and out of that stress state. So you want to be in a non-stress state for as long as you can throughout the day. And the final point, and the one that I am the least proud of, is this vaping. Unfortunately, I've picked this back up during prep for a couple of reasons actually. For number one, it is an appetite suppressant, and number two, it does give you some cognitive benefits, nicotine that is. Do I recommend it? Absolutely not. I'm quite embarrassed actually that I do vape. But yeah, I've said to myself that I'll probably continue doing it throughout prep and then stop afterwards. So, you know, it is what it is. We can't always be perfect, can we? But if you're watching this and thinking, oh, I'm hungry, I'm going to start vaping, don't be a twat. Please don't copy me. I was thinking about leaving that out of the video for that exact reason, but I want to be honest. So it's getting thrown in the video, and that will wrap up the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're in a position where you're struggling with your diet, you want some more advice on how to curb your hunger, or on the other hand, if you want some advice on how to get more meals in, get fucking massive, that sort of thing. My speciality is physique development. I help people achieve their goal, whether that be gaining muscle, burning fat, a bit of both, photo shoot preps, potentially even competition preps further down the line. That would be quite exciting. So yeah, if you're interested, there'll be a link to an application form in the description, sorry. So click that, apply, we can have a chat, absolutely no obligation to sign up, you can just find a bit more about it. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Until next time, peace and love. If you've got this far, fair play, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.